right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about the Seahawks Cardinals game from Sunday. That was a big matchup in the NFC West, and we'll talk about how that game unfolded. And the Seahawks got the win. They have now swept the season series between the Cardinals and themselves. I thought the Cardinals, maybe being at home, they would maybe get this win. They did get off to a good start. They went right down the field and scored a touchdown on their first drive. But after that, the Seahawks kind of took over. Kyler Murray did not play well in this game. Had a couple of interceptions that kind of led to the Seahawks, capitalizing on those. There were no punts to start off the first quarter. You had a touchdown by the Cardinals. They went 6 plays, 70 yards, and Kyler Murray connected with Michael Wilson for a 41-yard touchdown. So, yeah, that got them off to a good start. Then the Seahawks, they went down the field, put together a 7-minute drive. They answered with the field goal. Jason Myers, a 20-yarder. Then Kyler threw a pick. That led to a Seahawks touchdown. Geno Smith connected with Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's continued to have a good season. 19-yard touchdown. So, yeah, that put them up by 3. Then Kyler threw another pick, and that led to another Seahawks touchdown. That was Charbonnet's first touchdown of the game from 1 yard out. So, yeah, that made it 17-7. But then the Cardinals responded. They kicked a field goal at Chad Ryland from 28 yards out. Then the Seahawks went up 24-10 later in the second quarter. Charbonnet, a 51-yard run, and that was the score at the half. Then the Seahawks made it 27-10. Jason Myers' 36-yard field goal. And then you had a touchdown by the Cardinals. Kyler Murray, a little shuffle pass to James Conner for a 2-yard touchdown on 3rd and goal. So, yeah, that made it 27-18. But then the Cardinals later in the fourth quarter, they missed a field goal. Seahawks kicked another field goal to make it 30-18. And that was all she wrote. They improved to 8-5 on the season. The Cardinals dropped to 6-7. Like I said, Kyler Murray, 2 picks in this game. He went 25 of 38 for 259 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 90 yards on the ground by James Conner, another 16 by Kyler. Trey Benson had 15 yards on the ground. Trey McBride, 7 receptions for 70 yards. Michael Wilson, 2 for 57 and a touchdown. Marvin Harrison Jr., 4 for 49. It's been kind of quiet in recent weeks. Did have the touchdown last week against the Vikings, but has not had over 100 yards receiving since October 27th against the Dolphins. So they got to get him going. James Conner, he had 32 receiving yards and a touchdown. Cardinals defense, no sacks of Geno Smith in this game. And then as for Geno Smith, 24-30, 233 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. And they were without Kenneth Walker in this game. And Zach Charbonnet, he really stepped up when they needed him to. So he ended up finishing on the day, over 100 yards rushing. He had 134 yards rushing, 22 carries, and he had 2 touchdowns on the day. They have a nice duo between him and Kenneth Walker. Now, if you can get Kenneth Walker back, which they will at some point, that gives teams, opposing defenses, a tough time. Seahawks actually finished in total. They had 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. Well, the 2 by Charbonnet, but still. They had almost 200 yards rushing in this game. And, Geno Smith, look, he hasn't been great this year. But, look, they're getting the job done. They're getting by. They're in first place. And not many people would have expected that going into this season. But I also wanted to highlight Jackson Smith and Jigba because he has put together a nice season as well. He scored yet another touchdown on the year. He had 82 yards receiving. DK Metcalf only had 49 yards receiving. I'm trying to pull up his stats for the season, but CBS doesn't want to cooperate with me. It just continues to load. But the Seahawks, they have a ton of talent on this team. And, I think Mike McDonald definitely deserves some consideration for Coach of the Year because I didn't think the Seahawks, like I said, would be in this position at this point. But he's done a great job. He really has. And they have a chance to win the division. So, they still got some, games with the they got the Rams coming up, and you got the Packers coming up this weekend, which is a huge game for them. And we got to see what happens tomorrow night because you got the 49ers and the Rams going at it. That's a big game for both teams. So, yeah, no, it's going to be setting down the stretch how some of these divisional races go. But now that CBS finally loaded, so Jackson Smith-Njigba, 75 receptions on the season. He has 911 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. He's going to finish with over 1,000 yards. This has been a solid sophomore season for him. Last year, he only had 628 receiving yards, and he had 4 touchdowns. So, he's going to be a good player for them, as it looks. So, but yeah, tough loss for the Cardinals, though. Kyler Murray, like I said, did not play well in this game. And, the Cardinals still have a chance to, save their season. But when you look at, the NFC West now, the Seahawks are 2 games up on them. They're 1 game up on the Rams, and the Rams already beat them head-to-head. I think that's what it might come down to. It might come down to the Rams and the Seahawks the final week of the season. And the Seahawks, they beat the Niners. They beat the Cardinals twice. So they're sitting in a good spot. They are sitting in a very good spot. They're actually 5-1 on the road this year. They have a losing record at home. They're 5-1. That's impressive. And their loss, where is their loss on the road? That came against the Lions. So, there's no surprise there. And they lost that game 42-29. So, but yeah, 5-1 on the road is impressive. And, that makes you a dangerous team going into the playoffs if you have a good road record. But I don't think the Seahawks are going to make a deep playoff run, in my opinion, if they do make it. But you never know. You got 3 out of the 4 NFC North teams probably making the playoffs. So you might run into one of them. And they are going to be running into one of them this week when they take on the Packers. But yeah, the Seahawks, they have the Packers, the Vikings, and the Bears. Those are their next 3 games. And then they got the Rams to finish off the season. That is a tough stretch for them. I think they should be able to beat the Bears. It's probably going to come down to that game against the Rams. That's what it's gearing up to be. The 49ers, if they can win on Thursday, that would be huge for them. 49ers, though, have a lot of tough games coming up. I've gone over their schedule a million times, too. But they're not done yet. Looking at the wild card, though, for the Commanders, they got to make sure they don't slip up. Because, Rams are 2 games back of them. And then you got, the Cardinals and the 49ers and the Falcons all at 6-7. And the Falcons play the Commanders. So, the Commanders at least have the tiebreaker over the Cardinals. They didn't play the Niners this year. So, we'll see how it goes. But it's going to be some exciting football down the stretch. Good. Like I said, good for the Seahawks. Exceeding, people's expectations for them. Because actually, I think I might have had them at 7-10. I think I had the Cardinals maybe finishing in last, and then I had the Seahawks finishing in third at 7-10. I'm gonna have to go back and look. So that's still possible that they could finish. Actually, no, that's not possible. Never mind. They're at 8 wins. What am I saying? They could end up losing. It's possible they end up losing out, and going 8-9, but no, I don't think that's gonna happen. I think they probably get to. They could get to 9 or 10 wins. But between them and the Rams, I would probably lean towards the Rams right now with how well they're playing offensively. It's going to be a tough game for them tomorrow night against the Niners. But, I do like the Rams to keep pace with the Seahawks and then maybe knock them off that final week of the season to take the division. Puka Nacua was unbelievable on Sunday. Matthew Stafford has been playing such good football since, he's gotten his top 2 weapons back. His numbers look more respectable. Because the Rams, they have the 49ers this week, then they have the Jets, and then they have the Cardinals and the Seahawks at home. So I like them to at least get to 10 wins on the season. And I think 10 wins might get you the NFC West. And like I said, the Seahawks, they got to deal with the Packers and the Vikings. So it's probably going to come down to that. I really do think it's going to come down to that last game. But we will have to wait and see on that. It should be fun, though. Should be fun. But let me know what you guys think about this game. Do you guys think that the Cardinals are done after this loss? I think this probably means they are done. I mean, again, you still got a chance, but I'd probably lean towards that being the case, them being done here for the division. And, let me know what you guys think about the Seahawks. How far do you think they could go in the playoffs if they do make it? Let me know in the comments. So when we come back from our final break of the show, we will get into my power rankings for this week, list my top 5 teams after week 14. You might be a little disappointed with how the rankings are this week, but we will get into that when we come back. And it's just, we're moving on to week 15. We're in the final quarter of the season. Season has gone fast, and hoping that for myself that the fantasy playoffs go well, because that's starting. I do need to win this week in my main league to make the playoffs. I'm nervous about it. I want to make it because I want to avenge my playoff loss from last year, when I lost by a point, and I had the best team that I drafted in that league, arguably. This team that I have right now, though, it has the potential to win the whole thing. It does. But it also has the potential to just not make the playoffs, because there have been so many weeks where I'll drop over 130, and then there'll be other weeks where I'll drop under 100 points, and no in between. It's weird. But that's fantasy football for you. So, yeah, when we come back from our final break, we'll get into the power rankings. So, for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.